Education is a powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Welcome to Unical Radio International, your trusted hub for Education 360, where education, information, and entertainment meet. Today, we bring you a very special interview, a pre-lecture conversation ahead of one of the University of Calabar's most anticipated academic events, the 142nd Inaugural Lecture. Our guest this morning is a respected voice in Nigeria's media and communication space, Professor Stanislaus Orjighjigh Iyorza, Professor of Change and Development Communication in the Department of Mass Communication, University of Calabar. On Wednesday, the 13th of August 2025, he will take to the stage to deliver his inaugural lecture, intriguingly titled Communicating Change and Development in Nigeria's Media Spaces, Bridging the Participatory Lacuna. Today, we have the privilege of getting to know the man behind the scholarship, exploring the ideas behind this powerful theme, and giving you, our listeners, an exclusive glimpse into what promises to be an enlightening presentation. Permit me to welcome Professor Iyorza. It's an honor to have you with us this morning. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the listener out there.
Thank you. We are pleased to have you in the studio this morning. Congratulations on your upcoming inaugural lecture, I must say.
Yeah, thank you very much once again.
All right. So could you briefly tell us about your journey into the academia and what inspired your specialization in change and development communication?
All right. Thank you very much. I remember on completion of my first degree in mass communication from the Benue State University sometime in 2000, my project was on media advertising, specifically political advertising and voter behavior. And you know, advertising, it's a part of change communication.
Okay.
After 4 years of studies, I ventured into wondering the efficacy of media on voter behavior. I asked a lot of questions, how media can affect people's behavior, because every time and then you have people going to the media, to radio, to TV, to communicate their ideas with the firm belief that they could get the anticipated behavior from the audience. So when I proceeded to do my master's and my PhD subsequently, all my research activities were in the area of advertising. But there was this special moment that came in when there was a need for change in Nigeria. And the international community was quite interested because of the prevailing antisocial behaviors that Nigeria had recorded at the time. You know, this illegal migration, drug trafficking, drug abuse, rape, smoking, name them. In fact, there was no time at that time that Nigeria would not be in the in the media for the bad reasons. So the international community, fronted by the USAID and also See Change, a non-governmental organization, decided that we should institute change and communication studies in Nigeria universities, a very special area that will be carved out of mass communication and other media-related areas. So we were sponsored to have an initial course in change communication in Abuja. We were a team of 4 each, taken from the present-day Cross River University and University of Calabar. And we had that training for about a week, and few weeks later we had to travel to the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg in South Africa to continue our studies in media research and also monitoring and evaluation. and curriculum development.
Okay.
So we studied a lot, and my interest grew at that point, and it was all about change. At this point, even South Africa was experiencing the heights of its xenophobic experience.
Okay.
And they needed change too. So it was a course that brought participants from all over the world. And we had studies for about 2 weeks. And at the end, I came back to Nigeria and felt the need to promote these studies in social and behavioral change communication alongside some of my colleagues, my senior colleagues who were on that trip with me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that response. Many people see professors as scholars, but rarely hear about the personal motivations behind their work. So this morning, can you tell us your experience? What shaped your interest in Nigeria's media landscape?
Yeah, I feel we can do something more special using the media. First, there is this myopic understanding of the term media that the audience have. If you look at the word media, it's not just the mass media. But when you talk about the media, and when people refer to media, they refer to radio, television, newspapers, and all that. But we have, the term media is all encompassing. It simply refers to any platform that can mediate or facilitate ideas. That is why we call it media. And some of them are very effective. So we have these face-to-face communication media platforms, like talking to someone one-on-one, like discussions in the classroom, conferences, seminars, exhibitions. Then we have the conventional media, which was born out of the modernism paradigm, developments in technology, giving rise to the emergence of radio and television, newspapers, magazines, and all that. Then we have the digital and new media, which is the third category. And we also have the human media. Now, if you look at the media landscape, you will see that only the conventional or traditional media and their platforms have been utilized for communication, especially for change and development communication. The first one, which is more of the face-to-face, the personal media platforms, have not been adequately utilized. The human media have not been utilized adequately. We have the new media and also the digital media, but these ones have come with their own challenges, where citizens feel so free to communicate whatever. It's been difficult to even regulate it. So I am thinking that we can do something differently by imploring the use of other categories of media to promote change and development in society. In
your topic, I can see that your topic for this lecture is communicating change and development in Nigeria's media spaces, bridging the participatory lacuna. So could you break it down in simple terms? What does participatory lacuna mean in this context?
Let me start by what I would want to do without going into deep details. I want to examine communication of change and development, a kind of analysis, a kind of preview. When we say communicating change and development, if you look at the communication model, you have 4 or 5 basic elements, including the encoder, including the message. Then we have the channel, and we also have the receiver. There are other elements that have been added, like the feedback and the noise elements, which are also very important. If you look at the nature of communication as a process, you will see that it is participatory. It is expected to be participatory. That means you are talking to somebody, and the person is expected to respond based on the field of experience that you share, based on the person's understanding. And as a process that is ongoing, at one point the encoder becomes the decoder, and the decoder the encoder.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you apply the model to see if we have these, we use words like monologic or linear dimensions, where you have the encoder or the speaker speaking and giving out instructions, and the receiver of the information becoming passive, not getting involved, only listening. At that point, the receiver is also a participant, but a non-active participant. And when you are passive in any conversation, you take everything. When you're passive, it becomes less effective. And that kind of communication is not too good for change and development.
Yes.
Participation requires activeness in the process of communication.
Okay.
The people must understand what change or development plans or ideas you have, and how you want them to be involved. In their responses or in their feedbacks, they need also to express how they understand what you want them to understand. And they have to also register their shortcomings. And you see, the whole thing about participation is humanly based, human-centric, we call it, because the recipients will have to air, their positions on your demands. And remember that they are the receiving ends as the audience, and they are human beings, and they have their needs which affect their understanding. For example, in Abraham Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, there is the theory states that human beings would need to have their needs fulfilled from physiological to psychological.
Okay.
And it affects their position, including communication. So if you don't have a toilet in the public, and you're busy pasting information, communicating to people, do not defecate here, do not do this here, you will see that it won't be possible, because that physiological aspect, that presence, that need is not available for them to comply. I'm just giving you one example.
Yeah.
That is the kind of situation, unfortunately, we have. We are told not to do this, not to do the instructions are given. They are more linear, dimensionally, handing down instructions, communicating ideas, and the participants are busy negotiating, how can we achieve this with this? During the COVID-19, for example, we had instructions that came. Of course, the fear theory was used. There was no other alternative. Everybody was afraid.
Yes.
So communication needed to assume the McGregor's theory X, which strive and make people to also yield positively to certain directives.
Okay.
As Nigerians, we like obeying instructions or communications, yielding positively communications when most times the fear theory is employed.
Yes.
If you are told here that fear is going to go tomorrow, it's going to be scarcity, people will anchor on that fear,
yes,
and then will begin to run up and down. It could be unfortunate that tomorrow there may be no such thing. So the COVID came, for example, and then the messages came, and one of the demands then was that you should wash your hands under running water. That connotes tap water.
Okay.
And one would ask, in that communication, how is that going to be possible with the people in the rural areas,
yes,
who don't have taps?
Yes.
Some of them go to streams to get water.
Yes.
So are they going to improvise some kind of tap scenario where someone will fetch and pour for them? And also you can see that the designer of the message also experienced a lacuna, because it was writing from the perspective of all Nigerians are equal and enjoy the physiological needs of humanity,
yes,
not minding the fact that all Nigerians are not equal. So when we talk about this lacuna in participatory communication,
okay,
we are referring to the gaps in communication,
okay,
beginning from the encoder. So we have the encoder lacuna,
okay,
we have the message lacuna, we also have the media, the channel lacuna, and we have the audience lacuna. So lacuna in participatory communication could be situated among these, and we're going to discuss more about that tomorrow.
Yeah, because I remember before you started giving that response, you said that you don't want to dive deeply into what you you will say on your lecture.
Yeah.
But I see you to be flowing in this discussion, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
From what you've said, can I deduce that for participation to be effected, there needs to be an enabling environment? Can I say that?
Yes. You see, for participation itself in this context is anchored on the human theory.
Okay.
And I'm a humanist. Of course, I'm from the Faculty of Humanities and Arts. So as a humanist, if you are dealing with human beings, and if you want a high level of compliance and participation, their needs, their concerns must be taken into cognizance.
Okay.
We call these appeals in communication. You must appeal to their physiological needs as well as their psychological needs.
Okay.
Human beings have emotions. That is psychological. Emotions of fear, emotions of joy, and all that. And they also you need to appeal to some physical needs that they have. These things create the enabling environment.
Okay.
And if it is believed that if the enabling environment is presented or is present where the audience you are talking to are, there is a higher level of percentage possibility that they would comply to what you're asking them to do.
Yes.
So give them house. That's what Abraham Maslow said. Give them shelter, give them food. And after that, give them safety. And after that, give them social recognition, promote them, in whichever way. Let them enjoy the ego, the self-esteem, and also a level of self-actualization before their retirement. Human beings need all these. Abraham Maslow said once they attain a particular step on the hierarchy, they are satisfied and they want to attain the next level. That's why, of course, you see in most organizations or institutions, these needs are taken into cognizance first. The university, for example, has its staff quarters, to make sure that shelter need is fulfilled. And then, the salary is there also as a kind of security.
Yes.
So everybody would want to work where at the point of retirement, there should be this job security you enjoy in form of gratuities and also in form of pension and all that. So when these things are available, the environment is enabled.
Yes.
But on a larger scale, we are referring to, Nigeria as a country. So when we talk about enabling environment, we are referring to the third tier of the society. That's the larger scale, including the federal government, the legislature, the executive, the national scenario, where policies are made and handed down to the individual. Remember, the second circle is the exo, the middle, the community, and then the third one, which is the smallest, is the family, the personal circle, the family, the school, etc. So there must be that enabling environment. The government, for example, must enable, the individuals. If you're coming up with a policy, for example, ensure that you take the implementation of that policy into cognizance at different levels, at the level of policy initiation, at the level of policy debate, at the level of policy communication, at the level of policy monitoring, before you get to the level of policy evaluation, to see if there will be a positive response. But the problem we have is that the environment in Nigeria is hardly enabled. And that is why you see series of protests against most of these policies. Those protests you see are also communications. They are feedbacks from the audience who are participants of the communication process. They are simply telling you that what you have handed down to us in form of communication, in form of implementation, is not going down well with us. The Occupy Nigeria protest, the NSAS protest, the removal of fuel subsidy protests. Lot of protests you see are also parts of communication by participants who are expected to be enabled to comply, but who without that enablement are demonstrating their grievances.
Yes. Prof, your lecture will be addressing both the academic community and the public at large. So what key takeaway do you want each group to leave with?
Well, for the university community, communication is all-encompassing. It's part of humanity. Everybody communicates, and we communicate at different levels, at the personal level, at the departmental level, at the faculty level. Even as an institution, we communicate.
Yes.
I would believe that at the end of the lecture, the different segments of the university community will harness other available media of communication and will be abreast of change and development communication strategies. Most times these strategies are ignored. A strategy is a plan. For you to communicate, you must plan. And there are stages in this planning. You must understand your audience, you must study them. And that makes that communication for change and development quite a research process too. And after planning or researching, you have to focus and design your message. You have to create the channel or the document itself. Then you have to implement. And such communication should not just stop at implementation. That's one big mistake we do at different levels. Once you communicate, you implement your communication, there must be, room for evaluation so that you can know if that communication has been effective or not. To the society, they take on the same thing too at different levels. We see there are different media spaces. Let me use film as an example for communication. This is a time when we need development and change. Obviously, Nigeria needs that change. We need behavioral change. We need change in Nigerians' behavior because our image at the international market has remained questionable for quite a very long time.
Yes.
Nigerians have been in the news, obviously again, for negative reasons.
Yes.
Drug trafficking, being executed in faraway countries, rape, name them.
Yes.
Bribery, corruption. And these things are communicated. We obviously need a change in behavior. There is no development in any country that is bereft of good morals. If you check most advanced countries, we are not saying everybody there is good, but you have majority of people who are good. So we need behavioral change. We need that social change. And we need to also research to understand why these changes, over time are difficult in the midst of communications.
Yes.
I know we've been communicating against bribery and corruption for some time in the media spaces.
Yes.
But you can see, like film, which I'm going to talk about, film has been less explored as a medium for change and development in Nigeria. You can quote me anywhere. It's part of the research I've carried out. If you look at the Nigerian film industry, you see that what kind of movies do you see? We have different genres of movies. You see the entertainment movies, you have the epic movies, you see communications or drama on maybe Babalao or somebody disappearing and then reappearing and these films are transported to the international community.
Yes.
What do you expect them to see? To see Nigerians as magicians. After all, they call them African magic.
Yes.
You see? So you see that there is nothing, nobody's interested in using that medium for development. Maybe because the media producers or the film producers do not have sponsors or may not have the knowledge, to think that they need to contribute their quota to development. Or they may feel the audience may not be interested. They are looking at the audience and producing what the audience would want and what the audience would patronize and what they can maximize their profit from. So I don't really blame them. And that pushes the onus of using film as a medium for change and communication to the federal government.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So what are the ministries of information and orientations doing? It's not about coming to radio or to TV and telling Nigerians, be decent, be good, be nice. I understand there's a rally coming up very soon to let people know that Nigerians are not just bad. It's not enough for you to just transmit the information. That is a linear thing. It's enough for you to sensitize your people to see why they find it difficult to respond to calls for change.
Yes, Prof. Sorry to cut you, sir. Sorry to cut you short. I think at this points. The question we should be asking and answering now is talking about the participatory gap.
Yeah.
What is it that the media organizations can do, the governments, the citizens, to bridge this participatory gap? Because like you've said, it's not just about coming out to say this, say that. What exactly should they do?
Yeah. Okay. For the media, for example, we have, when I say media, I refer to media practitioners.
Okay.
And I know that media practitioners is a word that is all encompassing too. So it refers to journalists, it refers to media producers and all that. Let me start with the conventional journalists.
Okay.
You are reporting news. If you have a radio station or a TV station, for example, your duty should not just be about mere reporting of news. Now, magazines have almost gone. We have just few of them. But if you look at the difference between newspapers and magazines,
yes.
you see that newspapers report news stories on a shallow basis,
yes,
while magazines give depth
yes.
to stories. Now, we have just few writers who undertake development communication or change communication in forms of news editorials for newspapers, in forms of news commentaries on radio, in forms of features, and all that. But so why do we have this lopsided participation in communicating change and development amongst the media practitioners? Why is most of the journalists just reporting? And you know that the communication for change and development requires that research, what we call sometimes investigative journalism, where you meet the people. I've seen quite some journalists do that on Rise TV. I don't want to, sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, but I could mention some. There's one on that station that could go even where the oil producing states, where bunkering is done, spend nights with them, get the stories, the feelers from the participants. That is the kind of journalism we expect. It's not just about just putting on your shirt and tie and then going to press conferences and then getting the stories the way you're told and then coming back.
Being the first to put it out.
There should be a step further into stories that people ask questions about. That is what we expect. That is for the media, for example. I can go on and on and on. Many things are not done. You understand? Sometimes we quote people, we just say what they say without going deep to find out why they said it, how they said it, or reasons behind it. So that is kind of expectation I'm looking at.
Yeah, so do you think this discussion can be complete without talking about media freedom?
Well, it can. Let me say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because we have to. Who guarantees the freedom of the media? You're talking about regulation.
Yes.
You're talking about the government.
Yes.
In communicating change, government needs to change too.
Okay.
There are certain things we don't communicate only to people at the lower ebb of the society. We have special communication to the government. They need to be enlightened, and we call that media advocacy.
Okay.
So we need special investigations to channel most of the discussions on radio to the government to make them understand the need. Believe that communication alone can never solve problems if other factors are not available.
Okay.
So let's not feel that talking to them alone. Okay. But you can extend from your discussion programs, from inviting key stakeholders in the regulatory industry, organizing conferences, chatting with them, the executive arm of government, and making them understand the benefits. We call that advocacy.
Okay.
How much of that has been done in the Nigerian media industry? That is the question. So it can, yes, it can. But if you don't carry out such advocacy, how do you expect it to happen?
Wow, that's true. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how does communication tie into national development goals, in your opinion? What I mean is, what role will Nigeria media play in the next decade in shaping governance, policy, and the rest?
Same thing I've said partly, but let me throw more light on that. And your question is taking us to communicating development.
Okay.
Government has visions, has policies, have development goals, and we are concerned with communication.
Okay.
It is a duty of communicators to communicate these developments. As I speak to you, many Nigerians are not aware of development visions of Nigeria.
That's true.
So first, you need that enlightenment. That's one of the roles. Education. Educate the public using different avenues or channels that are most compatible to the audience. We have a lot of paradigm shifts in the media industry. Technology has changed a lot of things, but people find it difficult to sit before the television to listen to news for 30 minutes. Most persons are on their phones, and they prefer to get the news and watch whatever on their phones. So if we can transport such, I know there are efforts towards that direction, but mostly entertainment. And you understand also the uses and gratification theory,
okay,
where the audience would want to select that particular program that will. So we have to be strategic. That is another answer to that.
Okay.
We have to be strategic, know what the audience would want, how they want it presented to them. You have to understand also the advantages that social advertising offers. The idea, the attention calling device, a competitive one for that matter. Then the interest that should be created towards that story that you want to tell them about development. And then you create an aura of desire for them, to participate. And then you call them into action. I think we'll be doing that. We just need to be strategic. We just need to understand the media platforms to continue communicating, development to the people. Again, the platform we have in Nigeria is not very favorable economically to a lot of people. So I understand also that one, who sponsors communication for development in the society? First, the government.
Okay. The
government would want people to know their plans. Unfortunately, the government would want to decide how that development should be communicated. Instead of communicating it in reality, he who pays the piper, they take the tone.
Okay.
They want to tell the story. They want to tell you that, okay, we have done 35 kilometers of this road, but they want the public to know that. That's an example of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then they'll receive a lot of applause, out there. But in reality, maybe only 5 kilometers would have been done. So you need some independent, media practitioners who will bring out some of these realities. That takes us to the freedom of speech, okay, that you talked about. But I think if a lot of people, if we don't get to a point where we become charismatic about communication, if we still remain, at the lowest ebb of communication, because we are afraid we don't need to communicate, if we know that we still have rules governing the practice of communication, yes, decently, then as a society, not even as an individuals, let the NGOs come out. Let groups come out, sponsor even movies. Okay. Let them communicate these ills in the society.
Yes.
Let them say things let them point out these things that are not good. At that point, you'll not be going to face one person alone.
Yes.
You have a group or an NGO to contend with.
Yes.
But what are we having here? We have a particular NGO, every time they're suing the government, or doing this, suing the government, we've never known the result yet. Yes. And we keep on hearing it will be brought to book, it will be brought to book. Today we have not seen any book.
Yeah.
So we need, feasible actions coming from media practitioners especially. So if you want to go into the practice, I'm talking about film producers, I'm talking about journalists, I'm talking about online journalists, and all that.
This is already getting interesting, and yes, I am interested in knowing what you want your listeners to expect on the 13th of August. What can they expect from your full presentation?
I want them to expect to listen to the experience I have in scholarship in the field of media change and development communication. Okay. I want them to also understand that it is possible for Nigeria to attain that change that the country is looking for, that development that the country is aspiring for. I want them to know that it's possible if we correctly and adequately harness opportunities presented by the media or the media spaces that we have, the media spaces that I would want them to also know exist.
Okay.
And I want them to understand what the problem is, the challenges that have plagued our road to achieving change and development in communication.
Okay.
I would also want them to know maybe how we can utilize these spaces to promote development using communication in its rights.
All right. Professor Iyorza, thank you for sharing your time and insights with us this morning. It is clear that bridging the participatory lacuna is not just an academic topic, but it is a crucial conversation for our society's progress.
Yeah.
We are finding in the situation we are in the country today. So to our listeners, mark your calendar. The inaugural lecture will take place on Wednesday, the 13th of August 2025 by 3 p.m. at the God's Will Akpabio International Conference Center. This is an event you do not want to miss. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much, Inaugural Radio.
Thank you. My name is Ima-Abasi Isong, and I am your host for this interview. Please stay connected with Inaugural Radio International for updates, and follow and also subscribe to our social media handles. On Facebook, we are Inaugural Radio International. On Instagram, we are Inaugural Radio. On TikTok, we are Inaugural Radio. Twitter, Inaugural Radio, and YouTube, Inaugural Ring. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, goodbye.